Okay, trying to get this. Okay, so here you are, my very small kitchen. I'm gonna make dinner tonight. I'm gonna make some roasted beets, some roasted root vegetables, some cheesy polenta, and some scallops. Scallops are pretty intimidating to cook. I don't really like cooking them. I feel like they're super easy to fuck up. If I'm gonna do seafood, I'd rather do like shrimp than a scallop because they're so easy to overcook and then they taste like shit. But I found some on sale. The problem with the ones that I found on sale is they are scallop bits, so they're scraps, so they are uneven in size. The reason this is bad is because when things are not uniformly cut, they're going to cook at different times. So I'm going to have to be really aware of like my big fat pieces needing an extra minute and my little skinny pieces needing fewer minutes. The first thing I'm going to do though is my root vegetables. So you want to preheat the oven to 450. Cut up your root vegetables into 1-inch cubes. I'm going to be doing a beet, an onion, some garlic, and some potatoes. And when you're roasting something like a beet or a potato, do not put in non-root vegetables. Put in a carrot. Put in an onion. Don't put in squash. Don't put in beans. Don't put in broccoli. Root vegetables take a fucking long time to cook. And if you put in non-root vegetables, they're going to get mushy, they're going to get gross. Let's talk about beets for a second. I feel like not a lot of people know how to cook with them. And they're really good, and they're really good for you. So the first thing I do with the beet is I'm going to cut off both ends. Right? I've got a little scrap bucket here. The other thing with beets, they will stain everything. They will stain your knife. They will stain your cutting board. They will stain your hands. As soon as you're done cutting the beet, so now I'm going to cut off the top. As soon as you're done cutting up the beet, go and rinse everything off. Okay, now what I'm doing is I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to go around the edge of the beet. You could go straight down, but I like to kind of do this like angled thing because following the skin, then you just get less waste. So you're able to use more of your vegetable than you normally would. Now, if you want to kind of try and prevent, I don't know if you can see the staining on my fingers. If you want to try to kind of prevent some of the staining, at this point you could rinse your beet off while it's, skinless. It's just the fleshy bit. I got some little bits of skin left there. And that might prevent some of the staining juices getting out. You're going to want to peel a few potatoes, dice some onions, cut up some garlic. You want everything to be about 1 inch. So with your garlic, you really just want to cut the cloves in half. You don't dice it because then it's going to overcook. The pieces are going to be too small. Like I said before, you want everything to be uniform. All you're going to do is you're going to mix these things with some olive oil or vegetable oil. You could throw in a little lemon, a little rosemary, a little parsley, whatever you want to flavor it, salt and pepper. The scallops are going to be really light. They're going to be a lemon garlic. So I'm putting garlic in with my root vegetables because then all my flavors are going to kind of mesh together. And when my root vegetables come out, I'm going to give them a squeeze of lemon. They're already going to have salt and pepper on them. Then that way, the flavors with the scallops and the flavors with the root vegetables, they're just going to mirror each other. And the scallops are going to have like a lighter, fishy flavor, and the root vegetables are going to have that earthy flavor. And then the thing that's going to offset that is going to be the polenta, the cheesy polenta. It's going to be really high in fat. We're going to have two things that are going to be acidic and like more fresh tasting, and then the polenta, which is going to be like heavier. So I'm going to pause it here while I dice up all my stuff. The thing you want to think about is everything being done at the same time. All three of these things take very, very different times. So I've got root vegetables. They're going to go in the oven. They're going to take like an hour. And then I'm going to do my polenta. That's going to take like half an hour. So when my vegetables are halfway done, I'm going to start my polenta. And then when my polenta is almost done, I'm going to start my scallops. The thing is, like, you might think, you know, have everything actually finish at the same time, but you want it to stagger by just a couple minutes. So your root vegetables, they're probably going to come out last. It's okay if they go over a few minutes, depending on how big your pieces are. You want to check it at 45 minutes and see, like, how close are these actually. If they're really close, if they're done, turn the oven off, leave them in the oven while you finish everything else. The polenta, you can actually finish the polenta and then start the scallops. The polenta can sit, the roasted vegetables can sit. Everything's going to stay warm because those scallops, the scallops are going to take 10 minutes tops. So when you're cooking multiple dishes that are going to be done at different times, don't start them at the same time. Think about the end time, not the starting time. I can do all my prep work for the polenta and the scallops, but I'm not going to start cooking anything until we're getting close to the end. So I'm going to pause it here. I'm going to chop up my vegetables, toss them with a little veggie oil, salt, and pepper, throw them in the oven, which is preheated to 450, and in 30 minutes, I'm going to stir my polenta. Okay, so I'm going to get started on my polenta. The thing you want to do with anything is get all of your ingredients ready before you start to cook. So for my polenta, I need my grits. I got Bob's Red Mill polenta cornmeal grits. I need salt. This is the baby. Hi, baby. I need milk, butter, and cheese. I'm gonna use cheddar. You really want to use a cheese that's going to be melty. So, nothing too dry. Just don't use anything too dry. You know, you'll know right away when you have the cheese if it's too dry or not. You know, brie, that's super, super wet. Parmesan, super dry. So I gotta get my stuff. My milk. My butter. My cheese. I'm doing two kinds of cheddar. I'm doing a regular medium cheddar, and then I'm doing a sharp cheddar. And the sharp is going to give it more of a cheesy flavor, but the regular medium cheddar, that is going to be really that cheesy taste. So you want to follow the instructions. Most you can find online, you know, how to cook your polenta, or you know, this package has like a recipe on the back. So I'm going to do 6 cups of water and 2 cups of grits. Okay. So you want to, the first thing you want to do is set your baby down, because you're going to be working with hot stuff and don't want the baby to get burned. So I'm going to set the baby down. Here you go, baby. Here's a toy. Here's a chewy toy. Yes. Okay. I got my very large pot of water, and I'm going to get my very large measuring cup, and I'm going to put 6 cups of water in here. was dumb of me. Okay, so that was a dumb thing I did. I was filling up the measuring cup with water, and I had the pot right underneath it. So when I pulled the measuring cup away, all the water from the faucet just went right into the pot. So I ended up with like more water in the pot than I needed. Anyway, I had to dump it out. That's a waste of water. I don't like that. So we got 6 cups of water. I'm going to bring it to a boil. I'm going to put the salt into my water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cranks of my sea salt. Woo. Sometimes, you know, these things, you hear like polenta or scallops, you know, things that you might find at a high-end restaurant, and it sounds really intimidating. You know, it seems like something you can't make, but like, I'm not a fancy cook. I was a line cook in a restaurant, and I learned some skills, and I'm just pretty adventurous. You know, I'm not afraid to like try a new food, even if it might taste bad. But I really think with like quarantine, people have gotten more adventurous with cooking. They're more excited to like try new things. And so I really want to just expand on that. And help people realize that like you don't have to be an expert to enjoy something. So, you know, I recently took up guitar, for example, and you can see one of my videos on my YouTube. And I'm not great. I mean, it's 5 weeks. I can play 5 chords, and that's about it. Like, it's something I enjoy doing, just like cooking. I enjoy doing it. It's not a way I'm going to make a living. I'm never going to be an expert. I'm never going to be on America's Got Talent or Master Chef. I might be a Master Chef. We'll see. But I just think, like, it's okay. It's okay to suck at something for a while, and it's okay to try and do things you enjoy, even if you're not good at them. So I'm going to pause here while our water boils. Oh, and I wanted to say that the root vegetables halfway done. So that's why I started the polenta. Okay, you can hear my dog drinking water in the background. So once the water is boiling for the polenta, I got 6 cups of water boiling. I'm going to do my 2 cups of polenta right into it. The rest of the stuff that's going in, the cheese, the milk, the butter, extra salt and pepper for flavoring, that's all gonna go after it's cooked. So yeah, okay. Oh, I gotta lower this. That's what I'm doing. I'm like blanking on what to do. Reducing the heat. Reducing the heat. I'm not gonna cover it, but I'm reducing the heat. Looks like there's about a cup of polenta left in this bag. So I think I've made a batch like this before, and looks like I'll have about a half a batch left over. And polenta you can use for all kinds of things. Not just making like cheesy grits, but you can do cornbread. You can do cakes. You can do breads. My polenta is going to be 3 tablespoons of butter. So I'll go ahead and have that ready. 3 tablespoons of butter. Some milk. Put that butter back. Looks like I dropped a bunch of stuff out of my fridge. I'm gonna measure out some milk. I'm gonna start with about a half a cup. And the thing is, like, you can always add more if it doesn't seem like it's enough, but you can't take away. So when you're experimenting, like, be conservative. And then I'm going to grate up a bunch of cheese. And I'm going to grate up my cheddar and my sharp cheddar. And I'm probably going to do about a cup of cheese. We'll see, and we'll stir it up and when it's all cooked, and we'll see how good that looks. So, I'm going to pause the video until the polenta is done cooking, which will be about 15-20 minutes. Then we'll finish off the polenta, we'll gather all this stuff, and we'll do our scallops. And by that time, our root vegetables should be pretty close to getting done. I'm a little worried about my oven. It's old, and things seem to take like a little bit longer when they cook inside the oven. The stovetop is great, but inside the oven, it takes just like a little bit longer. So that's one thing you really want to be aware of when you're cooking is like, are the times in the recipe, especially when you're trying to time things out to finish all at the same time, are they going to need to be adjusted because of your equipment, you know? Are you using a toaster oven instead to bake your cookies? That's going to probably be a different time. You know, do you have a really old ass stove like I do? That's going to be a different time. With your grits, you want to stir them. So don't just like leave them set like I did just now, talking too much, because they will stick to the bottom. They'll come up, but just like one spot right there. I think I need to turn it down a little bit more too. Really, you just want it to be simmering. You don't want it to get back up to a boil. So, okay, cooking now. It's really important when you're cooking to take snack breaks. Okay, our polenta's done. I stirred it real good, so all those sticky parts that were sticking to the bottom are no longer stuck. It's nice and thick. I guess I'll taste a little bit. Okay. It's hard to tell with grits because, you know, the texture is like gritty, right? So I got my butter. I'm going to cut it into smaller cubes. I'm cutting it into about 8 pieces, my 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to plop those around in here. I'm turning off my burner. Now my hands are covered in butter, so I'm getting my towel. I really, really love polenta. I wish I cooked with it more, but it's one of those, you know, like rice. I feel like I'm really good with like adding in my milk, being intuitive with how to work with rice, you know, throwing it in a soup or using it in a stir fry, and I'm just not there with polenta yet. I've got my cheese, and I'm going to sprinkle in about half of my cheese. I'm going to make sure I get both flavors equally distributed. And then I'm going to give it a nice big stir. And make sure that everything gets hot, melts down. The butter, the milk, the cheese, all of it. Looks like that's going to be enough milk. Half a cup. Well, that was only half my cheese, so I might actually add a little bit more milk. Does not take long for this hot polenta to melt all that down and get really creamy. And one of the things that's going to happen is you're going to see it's going to lose just like a little bit of that texture, and it's going to turn a much lighter color, mostly from the milk and the butter, all that cream. So I'm going to put in a little bit more milk. just maybe a 1/4 cup or so. Get this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Very unprofessional. Stir this up again. What's okay at the end is like so you want the milk, of course, and butter to be incorporated in. But what I like to do this with pastas too, is everything's mixed in here now at the end. And now I'm going to add my salt and pepper, and it's just going to sit on top. So when you take a serving, it's going to have that salt and pepper on it. And then really, whatever your taste is, if you want to add more or less to your own individual plate, you can do that. So I'm going to set the plantains aside. It's gonna thicken up a little bit as it's sitting. And, you know, my little family is probably not going to eat all of that tonight. So it's going to sit longer, and the longer it sits, again, the thicker it's going to get. So I've got my scallops in this pan. I rinsed them off. It's about one of the only foods that I'm going to ever like rinse off. And then I'm patting them dry, really, really nice and dry. I want them to be super, super clean and dry for cooking. I'm going to leave them just wrapped in this towel sitting here on the counter. Now, this is not my biggest pan that I own, but I'm using this pan because the bottom of it is exactly the size of my burner. And what I want is for my whole pan to be evenly heat distributed. So there's lots of things that I will cook and use a pan that's bigger than the burner. I just cooked my polenta on a very small pan in a very large pot. But for these scallops, I really, really want to make sure that the pan is an even temperature. Another thing you could do is use a cast iron pan. I have one. It's buried in my storage. So I'm adding some olive oil to the pan, just going around. I'm getting, this is a bit of butter. It's less than a tablespoon of what's left in that butter. I'm going to turn my burner on, hotter than medium, but less than high, right in the middle there, right at like 5 o'clock on my dial. You want this to get really hot. You want this pan to be hot. Can you hear my kids screaming outside? Okay. I'm going to get some hot water here, about a 1/4 cup of hot water. Okay, so if you can hear my kids screaming, the wind is blowing really hard, which is making the branches of my willow tree go bananas, and he's just running through them like a tree sprinkler. It's very cute. Okay, 1/4 cup of water. Just gonna do a little baby bit of broth. I use Better Than Bouillon. I use the chicken flavor. That's the one that I like. It's really, a 1/4 cup is really just like a flavor. You could use a pre-done broth instead of using this stuff, or anything you like. I just think this stuff has a really good flavor. It's nice and rich, concentrated stuff. So I'm mixing that in with my hot water. I've got my tongs here ready to go. When this pan is nice and hot, I'm going to Get my butter and my oil kind of mixed together here a little bit more. When my pan is hot, I'll add this broth in. We'll slice some lemon and chop up some garlic. Other things you could do for both the scallops and the polenta, again, just like trying to find flavors that are gonna bridge these things together. You could do some parsley, or maybe even something like paprika, or something just a little bit spicy. You can experiment, and that's totally fine. And if you're scared to experiment with all of it, just do like one scallop with some paprika and cumin, and then do like on your plate, do a little paprika cumin on the polenta, and be like, oh yeah, that's totally works. Next time I cook this, that's what I'm gonna do. So we've got to cut up a big old fat clove of garlic here, and we're gonna slice this lemon. I don't know if you can hear, but my pan is sizzling, and that's what you want it to do. You want it to be sizzling. So that's when I'm going to add my broth in. My broth is going to heat up. We want it also to be sizzling. Hey, buddy, what are you doing?
I need more snacks.
You need more snacks?
Yeah.
Where's your snack bowl?
Where's your snack bowl?
I think you left it outside. Okay, so my garlic, I cut both ends off, and then I cut it down the middle. If you go get your snack bowl, I'll give you another snack. But you gotta go get it. And also, dinner's almost ready, buddy.
Dinner's almost ready?
Yeah. You wanna eat some scallops and polenta and potatoes?
Yeah.
Does that sound really good?
Yeah.
Now we're gonna do a little dice here on this garlic. Doesn't have to be perfect because people aren't gonna eat this garlic. It's just going to flavor our scallops. Same with our lemons. Ooh, our pan is really nice and hot, so oh, my buddy's trying to push his chair over to help. No, please don't do that. So I'm adding in my garlic. It's gonna heat up. Give a nice flavor to that oil.
I need more snacks.
Here. Veggie straws. Go nuts.
Oh no!
Oh, it's not gonna get your veggie straws. My goodness.
I go say.
Okay. I got my... Now, when we say a couple minutes on each side, it really is just top and bottom. You're not searing all around it the way you would like lamb or something. So I'm going to add my biggest pieces because my scallops are unevenly sized. I'm going to add my biggest pieces in first. They're going to take the longest to cook. And I'm going to do them in order. All right next to each other so that when I flip them, I'm flipping them again in that order and they're getting like similar cook times. Now, because my scallops are cut differently, I'm really going to have to check them. It's, be a little bit tougher than I would like to gauge how done they are because they're not all going to finish at the same time. But they're going to cook 4 minutes max on each side. Set a timer if you want. My pan is not quite big enough to fit all these little pieces in, so I'm going to throw them in towards the end after I start pulling some out. So I'm going to get a plate so that when my scallops are done, I can stick them on this plate. And I'm going to cut my lemon. Lemon, same deal. I'm going to cut the top and bottom off. My lemons, our produce comes from Imperfect Produce, so our produce sometimes gets weird. So my lemons have like ugly peels on them. The fruit inside is still really, really good, but I'm just going to shave off a bunch of that peel before I throw my lemons in, because I don't want, I guess I could wash them, but some of these really look like bad. Anyway, they're grossing me out, so I'll wash them off. Just big old fat seed right there. Now I'm gonna cut my lemons, because I'm gonna do, just for the flavor, it doesn't matter how nice they look. I'm just gonna toss my lemons in there. And these ones, I'm gonna squeeze. Got such a nice, like, fishy smell and flavor. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna pause it here, and when my scallops are done, I'll show you what the sear looks like on them, the way that you like want them to look. It's like a nice golden brown, like toast, I guess. Yeah.